What really did the best for us on social was when someone tagged our brand or someone was having a conversation around what they were going to get for dinner, or, if they were near a Taco John's location, and we would jump in and respond as the brand, and they would just go, wild. Like, oh my gosh, Taco John's, they mentioned me. Yes, yeah.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Framework Podcast. I'm your host, Ana Trujillo Limon, and this month we're talking about digital marketing and technology and AI and all that good stuff. And I am really excited to be joined by my colleague, Samantha Allen. Sam, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So making your Framework debut, this is so exciting. We've been waiting for this for years and years and years.
I don't know about that.
No, I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited that you had time to join me here on the Framework. So Sam, let's talk about, you have a really unique story and your journey into the industry, into the profession. Tell us about that.
Of course, yeah. So I actually started my career in the agency world. Mm-hmm. So I went to the University of South Dakota and got a double major in advertising and public relations. Mm-hmm. And then I went directly into advertising agencies. I worked for a few agencies across South Dakota and in Denver, Colorado. And then eventually ended up in Omaha working for a smaller agency here, but my clients were all financial services clients. So while before, when I was in Colorado and South Dakota, I was working on a lot of quick serve restaurant, hospitality, some political campaigns, which was really interesting, a lot of B2C. Mm-hmm. Once I moved to Omaha, the agency I was working for here had a lot of financial services, and one of them actually happened to be TD Ameritrade. Mm-hmm. And it was both the retail side and the custodial side, so a little bit of business to consumer and a little bit of business to business. And I really loved working on that account. The folks at TD Ameritrade were just so amazing, so creative, really innovative for an industry that I thought at the time, foolishly, was kind of a little bit maybe antiquated. Yeah. And they definitely corrected my thinking on that, which was awesome. And then I eventually ended up joining them. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember how many years ago it was, but I went ahead and moved over to the TD Ameritrade institutional team as their manager of social media and search engine marketing. Mm-hmm. So I was there for a little under 2 years when the Schwab acquisition happened. Mm-hmm. And so I jumped ship ahead of the acquisition. A lot of us did. And I did a little bit of time with an agency that focuses directly on financial services, FICOM Partners, which was amazing before joining Carson. Yeah, I love them. I cannot say enough amazing things about that team. They're so smart and innovative mm-hmm. and really understand the industry. So I learned so much working with them. But, I had some experience working with Carson in the past here in Omaha. Always admired the Carson team and loved that they were based here in my home state. And so when the opportunity came to join the team, I couldn't pass it up.
You know what? I was on a podcast the other day as a guest, and I realized it's a lot more nerve-wracking to be the guest than to be the host. And so, but anyways, he asked me a great question, which I thought might what you said kind of brought it up, was that what were some misconceptions you had about the industry? Like you had said, you thought it was antiquated. Yeah. And kind of how have you shifted your thinking on it all these years working in financial services?
I think the biggest thing, and it was because when I was on the agency side, compliance was so removed mm-hmm. from our work. Like we had these really, what felt like really strict rules that we had to live within with our creative work mm-hmm. because of compliance. But I wasn't ever given access to the compliance team. Like I didn't actually interact with them at all. So I thought compliance ruins everything is kind of what I thought. Like, yeah. And I was completely wrong. Like once I joined the TD Ameritrade team and got on the other side in-house and actually met with the compliance team, started working with them, I realized what an asset they can be and just making sure obviously everything is within regulation, but enabling you to still do all of the creative and innovative things and reach those audiences on new platforms. I'll never forget during the pandemic in 2020, we obviously weren't meeting in person anymore, and everyone was getting super fatigued with webinars. Yeah. And I really wanted to launch a series of social media live streams, which this was like right when social media live streams were becoming a thing. They were just kind of had a beta test on LinkedIn, and I remember my manager at the time was like, "There's no way compliance is going to let you do a social media live stream. Like good luck, but probably not. Don't get your hopes up. But it only took a few conversations sitting down, across the table and talking about what we wanted to communicate and how we would field questions and how it would be such a bonus to be interactive and live on social. Yeah. And we were able to do it. So I think that's probably the biggest misconception I had was like compliance is, this stodgy. They're not going to let you try anything or innovate and test. And it couldn't be further from the truth, which is awesome.
And that speaks to like a really good, it's like, there are humans behind it all, right? It's our humanity that connects us. Like you just talk to somebody and it could change your whole trajectory of stuff. Right?
I love going down and visiting our compliance team. I take my dog down there at Carson.
Oh, your dog could win over anybody though. She is so cute.
She's pretty cute.
What's her name again?
Willa.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. She
golden retriever, like the quintessential all-American dog. Like very beautiful.
She's a popular girl around the office. So she helps me win people over, and I love it.
I love that. I love the dogs, as you know. But so Sam, tell us a little bit about your role, like for maybe our listeners who haven't met you yet. Like, what your role at Carson is?
Yeah, so I'm the senior vice president of digital marketing, but my team actually includes not only the digital team, which is websites, social media, analytics, email and automation, podcasts, all of the things that happen on digital, paid advertising. But then it also includes our public relations team, which is really great because as important as public relations is in a traditional sense, it's made even more powerful by being super connected to digital because digital PR is really important for search engine optimization. So making sure your site has the authority to rank in Google results organically can be helped by landing your content, linking back to your site on really high authority news websites. So we have public relations on our team, and then we also have events on our team as well. So it's kind of become the cross-functional team on marketing. We serve both the consumer audience and the advisor audience and the partner audience. So we kind of have all three. And any of the teams that really fit between all three of those audiences usually end up reporting up to me. So I feel really lucky.
Love it. So all of that kind of boils down to like storytelling, right? It's all about telling the story for everybody. So you're a storyteller at heart, and you were recently on Larry Sprung's podcast with the Midland Money Mindset, and I loved how you talked about like the two-way storytelling between like the consumer and the person telling the story, and that how it's a kind of a back and forth. Let's talk a little bit about what that means for advisors and what that is.
Of course. I actually just talked about this yesterday during my partner summit session because way back, I mean, this is like early 2010s or so, I had a job where I was managing social media for a quick serve restaurant that's based here in the Midwest. They serve tacos. And I learned very quickly, being the manager of that social media, that one of the most powerful things I could do was just interact with people. Like, we spent so much time carefully taking pictures, carefully putting together our posts, and they got good interactions. But what really did the best for us on social was when someone tagged our brand, or someone was having a conversation around what they were going to get for dinner, or if they were near a Taco John's location, and we would jump in and respond as the brand, and they would just go wild, like, oh my gosh, Taco John's, they mentioned me. Yes. And I feel like that was kind of the heyday of brands on social media. And while that was really fun, I don't know if that is actually what works now. I feel like brands, of course, have to have a brand profile on social. As an advisor, you should have a profile for your business, and you should fill it with lots of really great thought leadership and industry news, so that way you're still seen as an authority. But what I think is really powerful today on social is that two-way communication. Social media was built for humans to talk to other humans. And like I said, for a while there, brands kind of had a moment, but the algorithms have proven that those brands are now being deprioritized, and what's being prioritized is real connection. So if you're an advisor using social media, you should absolutely be using it under your own name, under your own personal profile, sharing a little bit about what you do as an advisor, what your passions are, what your expertise is, but also who you are as a human. I'm a big fan of, like, on LinkedIn, I know it's supposed to be the professional, like, kind of almost like a digital resume, but some of the most engagement-heavy posts I've seen are like, I went and cheered my little brother on while he was running a marathon this weekend. I'm so proud of him. Or I coached my daughter's soccer team to a championship. Sharing a little bit about who you are as a 360 person. And I think that's where like real connections come from.
Yeah.
So it's been great.
That reminds me of like the vulnerability and like the, people who are out there sharing. Like, how do you kind of balance that vulnerability and authenticity, but with professionalism? Like, I know that's loaded.
Yeah, that is a loaded question. But I would say that I think that there's ways to be both professional and show a little bit of that, like, kind of behind the curtain. I actually think video marketing is one place, and video on social is one place where you can really play with that.
Yeah, I love the video.
Yeah,
right.
The super polished, like what Framework is. It's very polished video. And there's a place for that on social. But I also think that there's a place for, you're at an event and you run into someone that you really admire and you want to just grab an interview and just grabbing on your phone and filming. Or, the other day I was thinking about the ways that search engine optimization is changing with AI. And I just read a really great kind of report on how to start optimizing your website for the next generation of search engines. And I wanted to share it, and I kind of had this thought. So I just grabbed my phone and did, vertical video. I was just sitting in my office at Carson. I didn't have a ring light or anything too fancy. But it kind of shows that a little bit of that unpolished. You can really connect with someone who's just almost like on FaceTime talking right to you.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good balance. I'd say, like, if you can do 50-50 on video, but really leaning into it. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
You can have someone pop into your office while you're filming a video and say, "Oh, come here, say hi."
Or like the dog, right? Like a pop in, she's a hit, right? You have a dog or a cat, like your cat likes to walk across your keyboard during meetings.
I'm pretty sure on my podcast with Larry, my cat got up and walked across my desk.
I love that part.
And I think COVID-19, that pandemic, I feel like that has blurred the lines between our professional and our personal world to the point where it's okay if that happens. It just makes us human.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But you kind of brought up a few things there that I want to dive into a little bit. So you write the marketing monitor, right? Is that what it's?
Digital Debrief.
Digital Debrief, yep. That's what it's called. Yes. The Digital Debrief, so you kind of, it's like the skim, right? You go and you read all of these complex reports and you put it together, and you have said that you've used AI to write it. Like, so that way it saves you time and all of that stuff. So let's dive a little bit into the role of AI in digital marketing coming up, and then how advisors could kind of use it to their benefit and some pitfalls to avoid.
Of course. So I have been on a little bit of a soapbox with AI, especially because I think for marketers, I get asked a lot about, like, is it going to replace me? Am I going to lose my job? And I think that my answer to that is no, absolutely not. We should be using AI almost as if it's an addition to our team. And I've heard people explain it like an intern. I don't know if that's exactly the right approach. What I would say we should be using AI for is to automate the things that anyone can do, or automate the things that are prone to human error. So we'll use AI to conduct and analyze A/B tests and really large data sets to be able to say, okay, looking at all of these ad units we're running, this is what's actually performing the best. Where from the human eye, we might be able to see what's performing best, but it's prone to error, it's prone to bias, as, I thought this was going to perform best, and now looking at the numbers, it looks like it is. But AI will actually get in and show us, without any bias, without any error, what is actually performing and what we should be optimizing for. And then same with what I said around doing the things that anyone can do, like with my digital debrief. What is really powerful about the debrief is my going out, reading the articles, scanning all of the different sites and finding, okay, this is an article that I think is going to be really impactful. This is a trend I think we should write about. I take everything and I kind of consolidate it, and then I feed it into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT actually write the small paragraphs that cover it. Where that used to take me 2 to 3 hours, mostly because I am the most long-winded writer. And I promised my audience a skimmable digest, so I'd have to write it, and then I'd have to edit it down.
Yeah.
So now I will just almost do a talk track and I'll load that into ChatGPT of what I was thinking, and it'll spit out exactly what I need for my debrief. So I always say, use it to automate things that anyone can do or are prone to error, so that way you can focus on the things that only you could do as a human. And I think the things that are in that category are things like telling stories and the human connection and really having empathy. Something that I saw recently that I thought was so powerful was the idea that AI doesn't have connections. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have the ability to feel that. And so it will never replace us because there will always be a need for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I find it very helpful for things like I've just tested out different things like Jasper. I like Jasper a lot. Like especially if you're doing a lot of research and you want to dump, like I want to see this research report, but I want to get the main points first, so I know what to kind of look for. Yeah. So that's been very helpful. It has like a content summarizer and just things that are just helpful in your daily lives. So I really appreciate that about it. So let's dive a little bit into, so you're big on like the data and the metrics and all of that. So advisors who are kind of like a solo shop working by themselves, what are some things that they can focus on, or some metrics that they can easily collect? How do they do that? What should they focus on, and how should they go about doing that?
So I always recommend, there's, first off, digital marketing. I actually used to be kind of the worst when it came to digital marketing, because I would go to small business owners and they would say, well, I'm doing marketing, but I don't know what's working. And I would just be like, how do you not know? There's so much data. Why aren't you looking here? Why aren't you looking there? And as I got older and as I got into the in-house side of things and actually started spending more time with advisors and business owners, I realized, okay, these people are busy and they do not have time to do what I lovingly call the data death march, which is going into each platform, whether it be Facebook Analytics, Google Analytics, your email platform, your podcast platform, pulling all the data points, putting them into a spreadsheet. And then, of course, from the spreadsheet, it somehow always ends up in a PowerPoint. And by the time it gets to the PowerPoint, it's like dead. Like all the insight's gone. It's been translated 5 different times. We don't know if it's accurate
anymore.
Don't tell
that error you were talking about.
Yes, it's the data death march. So I always say we should focus on as little amount of platforms as possible. At Carson, we actually built a tool that fixes that. It's called
the Marketing Monitor.
Yes.
It's been a long day.
You are fine. You're fine. Too many fancy names. But Marketing Monitor does that. It pulls from all the platforms into one place.
Okay.
And there are tools that advisors can use to do that as well. Marketing Monitor is proprietary to Carson, but you can use Google Data Studio, Clipfolio, Raven Analytics, all have similar kind of dashboarding abilities that you can start to do that. But to your question, what I would say is the most powerful place to start, if you're wondering what's making the difference for my business and where are my leads coming from, I would start with your website analytics.
Okay.
Looking at Google Analytics, specifically the source report. You get in there and you look, okay, what are my top sources? Filter by conversion. So you want to see what traffic is landing on my site and converting. Where is it coming from? And then what are the paths they're taking through my site? So you might see organic search is a super powerful traffic form because it's high trust. They are searching directly for you. You're showing up in an organic result. It's not paid. So if they click over to your site, how much time are they spending on the site? What pages are they visiting? Are they bouncing on any pages that might tell you need to make an adjustment on that page? Where are they converting? Are there topics on your blog that they're spending more time on that might tell you what to write about next? I think starting with that source report, there's a million different ways you could kind of start to get into the insights. But either way, it's going to be directly tied to the people that are converting and start to show you how you can get in front of more people in the same way.
Very cool. So you talked about the Marketing Monitor being a proprietary Carson product. Let's talk a little bit about what the different resources we have for our partners and for the people within our ecosystem.
Yeah, actually, someone asked me that the other day, and I was like, we do almost everything. I was like, this is going to sound so cheesy. But at the end of the day, we do quite a bit on the digital side, specifically for our partners. So every Carson partner gets a website. The website's built off of a WordPress multi-site. It's really, really a cool product. We use the Carson Wealth website as a testing ground. So on any given week, we're kind of executing different A/B tests across the Carson Wealth site. Once we find the optimal experience, we roll out that experience across all of the partner sites. So it's kind of a twofold. The Carson Wealth advisors get the newest and greatest, but the partners get exactly what's working. So that's a really fun project for our web team. We also do content. So we have broadcast content that goes across all of the websites, new blog posts, new quizzes and experiences and downloadables. All of those downloadables are hooked up to an automation system. So we do automation for our partners. That's email drip campaigns and weekly newsletters that go out just on their behalf to all of their clients and their prospects. It's all connected to Salesforce, so they can go in and check and see who's converting and who's not, pick up the phone and give them a call. And then we also do broadcast social media, so they can get in and schedule out content posts or have it automatically go out for them. We do event support, graphic design, copywriting, video editing.
Really,
I told you,
everything in
it's
the
a
kitchen
laundry
sink.
list. It's a laundry list. But one of the things we recently launched that I've been really excited to help work on has been our client acquisition program. That's been something took a year or two to build, but now it's kind of out in the wild. It's a multi-million-dollar ad spend at the top of the funnel where we're getting out in front of, high net worth prospects in a meaningful way, and then kind of all funneling them down to our advisor match tool and our Carson contact center where they get on the phone with licensed reps and they get qualified and scheduled out with our advisors that are participating in the program. So it's kind of the neat, we always heard, it'd be great if I could just wake up with scheduled prospect appointments on my calendar.
Now they
kind of
right?
laugh, I don't know.
The dream is true.
But yeah, we're getting there. It's not quite,
Almost. The dream is almost.
It's not always that perfect, but it does, that's what we're aiming for. So
that is really awesome. So, Sam, you've been busy this week. Your IFP retreat earlier in the week. And so I was curious about, for people who weren't able to make that event, tell us a little bit give us the Cliff's Notes version of your presentation for our listeners.
Oh, of course, yeah. So what I presented on was what I like to call digital marketing defined. Mm-hmm. It's like digital marketing 101. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of start with what should be included in your digital marketing footprint, and how can you get really specific about who you're talking to hone in that footprint. Because I think what happens to advisors when it comes to digital is they feel like they need to be everywhere all at once with their message, and that could not be further from the truth. So really talking about who is your target audience, who is the person you're trying to communicate to, and what are you trying to communicate, and then figuring out how those two things work together to drive where you should be showing up and when and how. So we talked about social media, we talked about website and SEO, we talked about paid media, which there was a lot of really good questions on that. I feel like that can feel a little overwhelming for advisors.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, so what about that is most overwhelming for advisors, do you think?
Well, I had a lot of questions around paid search, which it kind of caught me off guard, because paid search to me is one of the most powerful forms of paid media. Social media can be really powerful too, because you can get really targeted. But when you're advertising on search engines, you're actually just buying keywords. So you can go out and bid on keywords that are specific to, financial advisor, Omaha, Nebraska, estate planning, Omaha, Nebraska, tax services, Omaha, Nebraska. And so you're getting it right in front of someone the moment that they're looking for your services. And it also operates on a bidding strategy called pay-per-click. Okay. So you only pay when someone clicks on your ad. Okay. So as long as you're being really targeted and selective with your keyword strategy, you're only going to be paying for clicks that have a high probability of conversion, so it can be very powerful.
Yeah, I always love these episodes because I learn so much from everybody who's on here, so that's great. But as we start to wind down a little bit, what is one thing you wish people, our listeners, advisors, would reframe their thinking on when it comes to digital marketing?
I would say the biggest thing to reframe on would be it's accessible and you can do it. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of advisors are a little bit, it's overwhelming, or I need to have an agency or an expert. But really, if you get in, I'm fully self-taught, and to be fair, marketing is much more than a job to me. I'm very passionate about it. So I'm not saying you could go out and teach yourself to do everything that I can do, but there are so many resources out there. If you want to learn how to stand up landing pages, we set up email automations, even, some digital design. There's so many cool tools that are really affordable and accessible, that if you answer those questions, who am I talking to, where do they hang out online, and what do I want to say to them? If you've got that kind of clear, you should be able to get started.
Awesome. So tell our listeners where they can find the digital debrief.
Yes, of course.
How to subscribe and get access to that.
Yeah. Anna knows that I've been really trying to break 1,000 subscribers on my digital marketing newsletter. Yes. So I appreciate it. But you can find it on my LinkedIn profile. So if you look up Samantha Allen on LinkedIn, you can subscribe there. Or you can also go to digitaldebrief.com and subscribe there for the email list.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, Sam, is there anything you want to add that I didn't ask or that you'd like to include?
I don't think so. I'm just really appreciative to be here. It's been so fun to support Framework over the last 3 or 4 years, and to actually be a guest is just a huge honor. So thank you.
It's an honor for me too, Sam. Thank you so much for joining me. And you'll be at Excel, right, in September?
I will be, of course.
Awesome. So if you want to meet Sam in person, register for Excel. That's excelconference.com. Excel is with 2 L's, and we'll be in the sunny, amazing, magical Orlando this year. So we hope to see you there. And thank you for tuning into this episode of the Framework Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode.